anyway, so we had a particularly interesting experience shortly after we became a couple that I found humorous, and it kind of brought humor into the whole world, this whole serious world of food. People take so, at one time back in the 80s and the 90s, I mean, food was, cuisine was just, everyone took it so serious and they were so pretentious about it. And I thought this really was a good, it's a funny example. So the story revolves around
tell the story.
Going to France.
We
were part of the group that took food very seriously until we had some experiences that woke us up a little bit,
We used to go every year for several weeks, 3 weeks, and do a trip around France focused on 2- and 3-star restaurants and resorts.
Have you heard of the magazine Gourmet?
Of course.
We used the Gourmet as a guide to where we would stay. So we would stay in a town that had a 2- or 3-star restaurant. I mean, it was crazy.
Anyway, so we wound up.
This is let me do it this way.
Okay.
So Paul Bocuse, you've all heard of Paul Bocuse?
Of course.
Okay, so Paul Bocuse started out in a little town a few miles from Lyon. And he was born into a family of chefs, so that his whole culture was food, but it was food in a very simple way. There was a joke that was told by one of the people involved in his group about his great-grandfather, Michel Bocuse, who delighted the people in their town by having small fried pieces of meat with local cheeses. He could put things together really in a very, very clever way, but it was simple food and very, very exquisitely done. And what Bocuse did was took that training, that culture, and went to a man called Fernand Pointe, who was in Vienna, which at that time, back in the 70s and the 80s, really was a epitome of what we called nouvelle cuisine. And so he learned how to become a regional chef, but he said always that his main value was simplicity of food and expertise in cooking. So, and that's everything he built upon those two principles. He went to Paris to study what the urban market was like, and basically learned under Lucas Carton, Lucas Carton, which is one of the very early celebrity chefs, let's call him. And so after he was there for a couple of years, he went back to Lyon and started in a restaurant. I get such a kick out of this. He went to Fernand Pointe's restaurant in 1956. He started out professionally as a pantry chef, which I thought was amazing. It's like Charles, what's his name? Pardon?
No. Charlie Trotter.
Charlie Trotter. Thank you, Charlie Trotter, working as a dishwasher. I mean, it's just so incongruous that I have a hard time believing it. Anyway, then he left that restaurant and went into the family-run business, which was at Collonges, which is where the famous restaurant is. They built the Abbaye de Collonges, and the rest is history to a degree. Even back then, this was in the late 50s, early 60s, he was a regional chef, and he was part of the foie gras, the foie gras cooks that were establishing the basis for haute cuisine. So he started cooking, and he had two guests that came in one night, and they were, you probably know them, Go et Milo. The travel Go Milo. Well, they decided that his cooking was too good to stay regional. So they said, we've got to take you national. We've got to make you internet. And it was based on their support, and they're pushing him, that led him into all of his accomplishments and his tremendous influence on not only food, but how it was prepared and how we celebrate with food. And our experience with Bocuse, and we were victims of the propaganda. We believed everything we were reading in Gourmet magazine, and we believed you had to have, sparkling wine with foie gras and all of this
it's so
other
true.
stuff. So, well, let me.
right.
So we went to Paul Bocuse. We went to the temple
All right, now let
of
me,
the new cuisine.
I'll be faster here. Anyway,
I gotta show you. I gotta show you the menu. Can you see that?
Yep.
this is 1982.
1982.
So we were in that part of France. We were staying at a place called La Mer Blanc, which was a gorgeous hotel, which had a 3-star restaurant attached.
In
to it,
Bonas,
In Bonas.
Mhm.
And it's about an
which
hour.
is right down the.
It's about an hour drive from Bocuse's restaurant.
Yeah.
In those days, there was no internet, emails and all that. You had to write letters. And Michael wrote a letter in French and got us a reservation for 7:30, which is the earliest time to eat. But we had this,
Right.
It's early for French people.
it's for, well, but it was an hour to get there, and then after, it's a 3-hour meal, and then we have to come back and all that. Okay, fine. So, and interestingly, on the way over, we were in a roadblock. And the roadblock were the French police breathalyzing people to see if people were on this country road drunk.
They were stopping you.
They were stopping. So
Yeah.
we got through that. Obviously, we hadn't had a drop of anything to drink. And we arrive at Paul Bocuse, and we walk out, and the place is empty.
Empty.
No one is there. We go in, and the man says that we didn't have a reservation.
He said, "Who are you?
You know, we have,
Who are
now,
you?"
mind you, so what did I do? Now, I don't speak a word of French, and he's speaking French to Michael. I look down at the reservation book. No, no computer screens. They had a book there. And I looked down, and there our name was on the first line. And I said, took my finger,
Mhm.
and I went there.
You see,
So he said, I will see. And then he said in English, because I was speaking English to Michael, he said, all right, I will seat you
We
with
said, "Just a
great,
minute, just a minute."
great difficulty.
Yes.
So he
In an
takes
empty restaurant.
it.
Yes,
That's it. So
yes.
he takes us into the empty restaurant.
A beautiful.
Now I have to say, during the evening,
It was a beautiful room.
it filled up, although
It was like walking into a conservatory that was all lime green and peach.
I went to the bathroom because it's a
Gorgeous.
3.5 hour meal. And let me tell you, even though I was younger, I certainly couldn't do that. And I went to the bathroom, and the place was about 2/3 full, but it was certainly never full completely.
well, it was anti-American.
And on the table, there were these beautiful
Charger.
Art Nouveau presentation
Charger
plates.
plates. Yes.
In fact, I actually have one.
Well, they're
Anyway, I can't get it
they're
right.
Villery Bosch.
Villery Bosch.
Yeah.
And of course, I wanted to see who was making these things.
Who did it?
So I picked it up and turned it over. Now I'll give it to Michael.
You picked up the
Oh,
plate.
you picked it up. Who remembers? You picked it up. Okay.
After after we had gone into this temple of fine eating where service was their highest value, and we got treated like shit.
Yep.
We got to the table in this beautiful room that was so gorgeous. I turned over the plate because I wanted to see who made the plate. It was a beautiful charger, and it was Villery Bosch. There was a big half line, half of the plate was greased. It was like if I had been at any other place, I would have called the waiter over and said, but we realized that this was going to be taken away. But I was shocked. And so I said to Jack, I said, what? Well, yeah, it was
I'll show you what the plate looked like. This is it.
a little bit bigger.
Okay, oh,
Beautiful.
sure, I know that pattern.
The typical
Sure.
Villery Bosch kind of,
And he wanted to, you wanted to tell him, he was going to
I
call over the
wanted
waiter.
to.
I said, I don't want, no.
I wanted to
don't
use
wanna-"
my French in the worst way.
No, to give it its due.
But then they came over and they brought us this menu. They took away the chargers.
They can't read it. Anyway, it was a 5-course meal, starting out with their very famous truffle soup, which was a consomme of pheasant that had julienne vegetables and big thick slices of black truffle,
Oh,
then was covered over with a puff pastry.
ooh.
So it came in with this huge puff pastry, and then they broke the pastry and it dropped into the soup to become part of the soup. Then you had a course of
Granite, pamplemousse.
no, that was later on. You had a fish course, and then we had a meat course, and then you had a pellet.
Oh, it was a tureen of lobster.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then you had a cleanser. of,
Grapefruit granite,
yes, and then we had the famous
volet de Bresse
for 2 people, a whole chicken, which was
from Bresse.
with julienne vegetables stuffed inside, and it was cooked in a bladder, which was then opened before they did it.
Which
Yeah,
was
I'm cool.
called en vessie. It's poulet en vessie. And it was amazing how they brought it over and they split it and the juice came out and the steam went up. So
And then there was a plateau of cheese, and then finally the desserts. This was a fixed price menu of 300 francs, which at the time was probably $60. Now, mind you, that was a lot
Yeah,
of
I
money
know.
in those days,
That
but
was a lot of
$60
money.
in 1982.
Wow.
It was a memorable meal, not only for the food,
But
And-
for the grease.
except for
and
the
then
charger.
their rudeness
And their
as we came
rudeness.
Yeah,
in.
well,
And then their comeuppance because they put a dirty plate down on the table. It's a good thing we weren't from Michelin, you know.
So-
yes, and it could have been.
when I was laughing at the whole thing. I mean, it really took it demystified the whole
Yeah.
thing about, food. And I was kind of glad for it because I said, I eat off of cleaner dishes in my home,
I would hope so.
and I could cook
But
as,
the food was
but no,
outstanding.
the food was outstanding. Yes. So when we left, I was trying to be nice, because we really did enjoy the food. So I went over and I looked at the waiter and I was going to say, thank you very much and have a few pleasantries to leave. I looked over like that and he looked at me and he went,
Yes, of course.
"So typically French, and walked down the aisle. This is really funny. Anyway, I thought that was, for me, that was a real experience that kind of,
Eye opener.
yeah. And it was
Who's next?
fun.
Thank you.
Well, I can tell it, I'll
It's
tell a
very
short
funny.
one. I have a short one. I got
to go in about 20 minutes, 15 minutes. You all remember my friend John Porter, who died, my billionaire friend. And we had a couple of fun experiences. One was we had one of those 3-course meals at the Royal Opera, where you go at the beginning and then you have the meal in between a 3-act ballet. Which, if you've never done at the Royal Opera, is really fun because you get to leave everything in the restaurant. But this is my favorite John Porter meal story. We had such a great friendship, and one time he was coming through London and he was leaving London, and I was just coming through London. He's like, look, meet me basically at Miles End, which is one end of London, and he had to get to the airport, get to Heathrow. That would take about an hour and 20 minutes. So he said, take that train ride with me, and that'll give us an hour and 20 minutes to spend together before I have to leave. And that was really great. So great to get an hour and 20 minutes to spend together. So we run to Pret a Manger, you know, the Pret.
Yeah.
We love
Great
those.
salmon sandwiches.
There you go. Okay. And
Crayfish and arugula is my favorite from there.
So John gets his favorite soup and that he really wants to eat in something else, a salad. All right. And I get a tuna sandwich on a baguette. And I thought, great. So we get on the train and here we are, we're going to talk. John forgot to get silverware. Okay.
Oh,
And he's a very proper guy. So he's not going to jerry rig the soup or the salad. Okay. So I'm like, John, would half of my tuna baguette? Why, yes, I would. half of my tuna baguette. But we had such a fun time on the train sharing that tuna baguette. I've always remembered it. I was trying to think what's a memorable meal, and that was one of the funnest meals, actually. Yeah,
That's fun.
who's next, Sherry?
I'll go next.
I think I've been to many wonderful restaurants, but I think the most fun thing I've ever done is to cook with my kids. And we had, I don't know if I've told you this, we had a little routine at Christmas time where we'd do an assembly line and make peanut butter and jelly cookies. And I'd make the batter. And then David would make the balls. And we had to put a hole in it so I could fill it with jelly. Sammy, who was 5, took the ball and made the hole like this every one. And I'd fill it with jelly and we bake them. And I figured sterilization is
Of
212.
course.
And I'm baking at 350. Who cares?
And it's family. I love that.
that's a nice memory.
Oh, yeah.
That's sweet.
Yeah, that was our fun thing.
Diane.
Oh, I did, right, Diane.
Okay, so the best meal I've ever had in my life, I shared with Richard. Thank goodness, because if he wasn't there, I would begin to doubt what happened. So it was in Agra. Oh, and by the way, I just want to say that this particular meal, if you could place it someplace, I'm going to place it right over here. And all the other meals of my whole life are over there. I don't expect that I will ever in my life, ever, I'm sure I will never have a meal like this again. It was so amazing. We were in Agra, and of course, unsuspecting, you know, we made a reservation at the hotel we were staying. And we ordered a few things on the menu, and they started to bring these things. And from the first bite, something happened. So you take a bite, right? But after the first bite went in, there's a sensation, there's a taste, but there's also a sensation. And then with every chew, with every every little, yeah, with every chew, it changed. And it moved into something else, and it moved into something else. It was like an orgasm that just kept growing and growing and growing. And I looked at Richard, and he's going through the same thing, and he is not a foodie. I said, is this happening to you? He said, it's happening to me. I couldn't wait to get to the next bite. I'm thinking, could this be real? Went to the next bite. Is it going to happen? It not only happened, but it started from where it left off, and just, oh my God. And we just kept ordering more food and stuffing ourselves. And at the end, we said, okay, and we want to order this, this, and this, and this to go. They would not let us order one more thing to take out of the restaurant. They wouldn't. I've never experienced that before. Anyway, so that was my experience. I have no idea how that happened, what that was, what magic this guy had in his kitchen, this chef. I only wish I knew where this chef was right now. I would follow him anywhere in the world, because this was quite an experience. I don't know. And you know, I've lived in New York, I've lived in California, I've gone all over the world. The best restaurants in the world, I have never encountered.
What did you eat?
Sounds like a stoner experience.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
I
I
have
think the ingredient
never
was weed.
had a drug in my life. I have never had one taste of alcohol in my life. So it wasn't anything like that. It was strictly the food.
With weed.
What was it? I mean, what did
Secret
you
to
eat?
your good
It was-
skin.
You know what? I'm vegetarian. So we were just ordering standard Indian fare off the menu that was vegetarian. I mean, nothing out of the ordinary, you know, they were things that you would find on an Indian menu. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know. Anyway, that's it. Pretty amazing.
Do you think that they could have used some type of hallucinogenic herb as a
Yes.
spice or something?
You know something? I actually have told this experience to some Indian people who have told me that there is some kind of school of cooking that can
Yeah.
do that thing. It's not common at all, very rare, but and gifted people are somehow able to get this, but it's not unheard of. I've actually spoken to people who have heard of it.
Yeah.
It's like that movie, like Water for Chocolate. It gets
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Exactly.
Because there's something, to me, what you're describing, there's something chemical going on.
There was definitely something chemical,
Yeah,
but you know,
definitely.
they had somehow mastered this chemical reaction with maybe the spices, with maybe the actual food that there was some kind of chemical reaction
Yeah.
in the school of this kind of cooking that, oh my God, if you ever hear of it someplace, please call me and tell me immediately, because I will go there.
Chocolate brownies.
Yeah.
Really.
No, it sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. And let me just say this. It wasn't like if there was a hallucinogenic in it would not have been that, because it actually happened with the explosions in the taste buds as well. And the taste kept changing. Like every second it was changing into something else.
But see, Diane, that takes place in the brain.
Yeah. Well,
You know, it's not in the,
There you go.
in
Weed.
the mouth, but it's in the brain. So it could have, anyway, it sounds interesting. It sounds intriguing. I want to know the name of the restaurant.
you will die when I tell you what it is. First of all, it was in a hotel restaurant. And back at the time that we were staying in Agra, there were only 2, I think, hotels at that time.
The Sheraton and,
View of the Taj. And
right.
it was the Sheraton.
The Sheraton.
God, it was so, oh,
Hey, don't mock that. ITC
Oh.
Sheraton, dumb booked, makes the best food. They
Yeah.
make chicken that is butter soft. Their restaurants are actually superb. The
Yeah.
Sheraton chain in India, the food chain there, ITC Sheraton,
Oh,
dumb
at
Delhi,
Bukhara,
Bombay,
at Bukhara.
Bukhara.
We've eaten
Superb.
in Delhi.
at
We've eaten the
Bukhara
Sheraton in
too.
Delhi. Yeah.
And
Well,
there's a
this
great
was the
Sushi
chef.
Karma
I
mural.
would not equate it with any kind of restaurant, except maybe the Sheridan's really looking for good chefs. But this was definitely the chef.
Oh,
Oh my God.
Ah.
Betty disappeared. Alan?
Sure. But Diane, I've had similar type, not quite that orgasmic, but some really remarkable meals in India where you feel that there must be drugs in the spices because it's just like nothing you've ever had before. It's just it's all encompassing and it's just amazing. And a lot of we lived in Kolkata in this one area where they had some spectacular restaurants, and we would just kind of stumble out of those restaurants, with a, just like life is good, It's really, really, really remarkable. Well, I have a couple of stories. So one was when we were on the Fulbright, in India. So the Fulbright every year has a conference where they bring in, all the people in the region, who are doing their various projects. And this was at the ITC Chola in Chennai, which was the fanciest hotel I'd ever been in my life. I mean, it was just spectacular. And one of the things that was very funny about it was, so we lived in an apartment, a nice apartment in Kolkata, but a lot of the younger Fulbrighters were like in yurts, off in Mongolia. I mean, people they had not bathed in months. I mean, it was, and so they come into this incredibly fancy place with the guys in uniforms and turbans, and the bathroom, was with this spectacular tub. It was absolutely just remarkable. And so they had, a communal meal for there. I think there were 100 of us. So they had this remarkable kind of buffet, but the food was spectacular. Every single dish was just superb. So Jerry says to one of the waiters, she says, "This food is really special." And the guy was very proud, and he says, "Well, thank you. We have this marvelous chef." And she says, "Well, I would really like to meet the chef. I'd like to talk to the chef because this is better than anything I've had, anywhere. Just great." And so he brings the chef out, and Jerry is, lavishing praise on him, and he's French, and he is very gracious, and he says, "Oh, but, I'm so happy that you love all of this food. This is, it really makes me feel great." And she said, "Yeah, I'm especially astonished because you're not cooking for 4 or 5 people. You're cooking for 100 people, and everything is just superb." And he says, "Wait, well, what else could I do for you?" And she's joking. And she says, "Oh, you could make, what was it now, like maybe Père Berlin or something like that, and some really quite delicious dessert." And he just smiles and says, "Okay," and then he goes away. And then we finish, we give a talk or something. I don't know. We go back to the room. Jerry goes off somewhere. Several hours later, there's a knock on the door, and open the door. And there is a woman from the hotel with this tray. And I will try to dig up the photo because I photographed this because it was so gorgeous. And it was a complete tray of exquisite desserts. And it was beautiful, absolutely stunning. And I'm standing there like, what? And she has compliments of the chef. And
Nice.
it was just spectacular. And then she came in a little bit later, and I'm going, "Whoa, look at this, look at this, look at this." And she said, and I mean, I couldn't touch it. It came under a nice little plastic thing covering it all. It was absolutely remarkable. And then we tried to find the chef to thank him again, and we never were able to find him. And then we had to leave the hotel, and that was that. But it was,
Very
it
generous.
was,
Yeah.
it was memorable. And it also, Jerry was saying, always thank the chef.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, always thank the show. So that's one story. But that's enough. I mean, there's other people. Let you tell other stories.
Go,
But
everybody.
it's
It's
great.
so nice to see everybody and talk to everybody. I have to go. Love you.
Bye, Joseph.
What is the vegetable called in Yiddish?
Okay, who's next?
Latke? Latke.
Mara?
Mara.
Okay, I'm more confused. Hold on. I'm on. I'm all confused about which story to tell. But okay, I was in Ranthambore with my mother, and we came back from the safari, from the ride, and I saw a table in the garden, and I said, "Oh, how lovely! People are going to have tea in the garden." Anyway, we went and we listened to the lecture, and then we were on our way to the dining room with the waiters carrying our drinks. And they're taking us to that table in the garden. And there are hundreds of candles on the lawn. And the tablecloth was made of fresh bougainvillea flowers in a geometric pattern of different colors. And they brought a brazier because I was a little chilly. And they brought dish after dish of food from the chef. It was incredible. But it wasn't, I mean, the food was out of this world, but the table and the candles and the attention was just amazing. And then in bold contrast, my mother and I were in Sri Lanka, staying in an old Indo-Portuguese mansion on the beach where the beach sand came right up to the veranda. And we just walked through a little gate onto the beach. And there were little rickety tables, and you sat with your feet in the water, and they cooked fish on the beach. And it was just so simple and heavenly. But okay, that's enough for me. I've got a million of them.
Oh, what images. Penelope? Yoo-hoo.
Well, I had to unmute myself. My story doesn't have anything like the beauty of that amazing table. I mean, I can barely picture it, but it's candles all over the lawn that just amazing. But as I thought about this assignment of a memorable meal, and it's pretty ironic because I cook and I collect cookbooks and I like to eat and all. I really had trouble. I could not come up with a memorable meal. I mean, I could come up with memorable foods, the cherry stone clams that were constantly being shucked on the beach at Nantucket, and I was allowed all I wanted as a child. I mean, those were just wonderful. I can remember individual foods that were got my attention, as it were, at the time. The first time I had snails in Brussels when I was 13, but what really my memories are of places and of ways of eating. So, one of them that same summer would have been sailing to Europe on the Queen Mary in first class. And, I couldn't find the menu. I was looking for it. I have them. Being handed a menu I could hardly lift, and being able to order anything I wanted from it, and saying to my father, to his enormous amusement, "And it's all free." There were no prices on anything, and I took that as an opportunity, to the horror of the steward. I love starters. That's my favorite. You can keep your marvelous desserts, Alan. I love starters. So I ordered the oysters and the caviar and the vichyssoise and the waiter was just scandalized. But miss, those are all starters. And I said, I know. I was darned if I was going to waste this opportunity on potatoes. As far as I'm concerned, potatoes are something that you fill up on because you don't have enough other food. But I can remember the ambiance of that 2-story high dining room, and white tablecloths and marvelous things. The second memory in that category was, and it may sound sad, but it wasn't in it, the realization of it. My cousin Jane, my father's cousin by marriage, whom I adored, was dying of pancreatic cancer. And I was planning on coming later, and her daughter called me back and said, "No, I think you need to come this weekend." So of course I drove down to North Carolina to see it. You have never seen a piece of linen that was whiter or more beautifully ironed. You know, everyone in the family contributed to, it was a huge table. It could seat 20 with all of the leaves in it. Everyone contributed to making not only the food, which was rack of lamb that had been brought down from New York for the occasion, but this, you know, dazzlingly white tablecloth and the silver polished to within an inch of its life, so it just gleamed, and candles, and all of us dressed up, and Jane dressed up, and it was just an amazing I mean, talk about a celebration of a life. This was a celebration of a life while the life was still being lived, and it was absolutely perfect. But I remember the way the table looked, and how, you know, the silverware was set perfectly. Nothing was out of it. I mean, all of the perfection. But the other one, the last one is, have any one of you ever been to Lockover's in Boston? Oh, quel dommage. Lockover's was the best restaurant in Boston when I was there, both as a student and later on with my husband and working downtown at State Street Bank. And I looked it up to see if I could just, you know, get a little extra information, and it's wrong. It's wrong. It says that women weren't allowed till 1970. Well, I was there, you know. I was there in before 1965, and so they obviously allowed women. But this was a restaurant that doesn't exist anymore, and the kind of restaurant doesn't exist anymore. But you know, as soon as you walked in the door, you were treated quite quite opposite from your experience at Paul Bocuse's joint. You were treated like royalty, and you were seated at a beautiful table with plenty of room between people. Again, white, heavy linen tablecloths, their own silver, which I tried to find out where it was. Apparently it was English silver, but I don't know exactly what pattern it was. It was in the days when we still smoked, and we smoked at the table.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you remember that.
Oh, my.
And what was noticeable, and do you remember all the etiquette that was involved in it?
Yes.
You never left your cigarette in the ashtray because some of the smoke might go into someone else's. If you were really polite, you only smoked between courses. I mean, there was a whole list of rules for smoking. But in this case, you know, there's an ashtray or 2 or 3 on the table. You never saw anything in them because the waiters took them away and emptied them without you realizing that they'd done that.
Yeah.
As soon as there was anything in there, your water glass was never anything other than completely filled with ice water, but you never saw them pour it. It was service and beauty that just doesn't exist. So the things to order were lobster Savannah. That was their basic thing, which was, it sort of made lobster Newburgh seem like a diet food. It was their own thing, and it was served in a huge scallop shell. And then you might order some side dishes like, let me see, I actually found they did have these, although it's from a later incarnation. You might have ordered cream spinach or a grilled asparagus with hollandaise. And only the tourists would order a side for each person. The rest of it, or only the tourist would order the large size of lobster Savannah. The rest of us knew that the sides came in dishes, you know, that were like this. Easily the table of 4 could share them, and it was all perfectly cooked. So I remember the lobster, so I just remember the experience. The second time I remember being there, a friend of mine had told me that if there's ever a food you don't like, you think you don't like, you owe it to yourself to go to the best restaurant you can find and order it. My roommate right after college had cooked tripe, and it was disgusting. So the next time I was in Boston, I ordered tripe at Lockover's, and it was fabulous. They grilled it and served it with a mustard sauce, It was amazing. It was a very good life lesson. Do order at the best restaurant you can find. And the last one there, again, this doesn't exist anymore, and it just makes me sad. I was working at State Street Bank in Boston in computer programming, and we were converting a system to a new system. And I was working, to my husband's dismay, 2 shifts to get this system up and running. And I was eating food from the machines. Do you remember when there were food machines? And it was awful. I felt terrible eating it. I felt terrible after. It was just disgusting food. And then I began going to Lockovers, walking over to Lockovers for a meal in between shifts. And I still remember, now speaking of memorable meals, I still remember the meal which was a plate of arugula salad, again, huge and delicious and fresh, and vichyssoise.
Oh,
Yes, exactly. Ugh. And I would go back to work, I had nothing to drink because I was going to work.
You sailed back.
I was able to, work another 8 hours happily. But I miss that kind of restaurant doesn't exist anymore. It's part of it, I think, was killed by our wanting things that were healthy. God knows Lobster Savannah was not healthy, but oh my God, was it good. And, and it was also, it was definitely elite. There was no way else to describe it as than elite. But I don't think you can find that anywhere. Even the very top restaurants now often have bare tablecloths or have various things that are.
And the food has gotten so fussy.
Yeah, and these were just simple, beautifully served, marvelous things. So what I remember is the experience of the gestalt of the whole thing, as opposed to a particular food.
Yeah.
The food was delicious, but that wasn't it. So those are my stories.
Shoma?
So I thought Betty was up.
No, you're up. I'm gonna be the cleanup hitter.
I am.
Barbara's not done. I just responding to Alan. Alan, thank you. That's a lovely picture.
I just put a picture of the surprise gift from the chef.
Lovely.
Yes. So my memorable experience. I'm gonna try to share a picture. I was just showing it to Diane over the Friday. I think I showed you. This is, I don't know if you can see. This is my aunt's mother. So can you guys see it? I don't know, it's a picture of a picture that I took. It's what typical Indian Bengali women dressed like when I was growing up. Can you guys see it?
yep.
Yes.
So Sunday late afternoons, we used to always go to her house. And I was 7 or 8. And it's simple food. It's simple, everyday Indian food that they make every Sunday. It always ended with vanilla ice cream. It was quality ice cream, spelled KW, comes in a brick.
Yes.
And you slice it. You don't get a scoop. They take it out of this box and they slice it and you get a slice. That was the treat. But what the food that I remember, since you asked for memorable, because I really thought about this, because I'm not a foodie. I don't care what you give me. As long as you give it to me, it's that experience that makes it memorable. We make something in Bengal, Alan will know this, called posto. You make it with opium seeds. So it's technically drug, except you make it with potatoes, and it's completely legal. It's not cooked opium. And when you eat it, it's sleepy, and you have it with rice. And there are many varieties of rice you get in Kolkata because it's a very green agricultural belt. And there's something called Gobindo Bhog, which is tiny, white, pearl-like, superb rice. You mix it together. You eat with your hand. Bengali food, you eat with hands. Indian food, you eat with hands. You eat with the tips of your fingers. It doesn't touch the rest of it. But because I was young, it's this lovely thing. They feed you by hand. So they will sit there and they'll feed you and they'll tell you a story. The whole experience is what I remember. Just sit there and feed me by hand and tell me a little story. It's really lovely. I'll never have that. It's just simple food. And it's everything that, I laugh when you said, Penelope, who wants to eat potatoes? I do. Because that's what I remember. And at the end in the rice, you put ghee. And it's just this, and it's not even that, it's someone is feeding you, it's that love. And when I thought of it, I was like, God, I will never have those days back. Right. And so this morning, I made my memorable meal. So I don't want to miss that. This morning I woke up, I made tea for myself. regular Indian tea that I make. You know, by Indian, I mean my Indian, which is made of condensed milk, not the chai, no masala. But you know, Jack and Michael, I poured it out in the cup you gave me. And I used the hanky you had given me, Diane, your grandmother's hanky. I needn't need a hanky. I don't know how to drink tea without a hanky. Regular meal. I made that at 5:30 in the morning because it's the only time my house is quiet. And I made that simple tea and I drank it this morning by myself. I used the cup that you gave me. I remembered it belonged to your family. It was the only way I could connect to what I'll never have back because that woman is not around. No one is going to hand feed me because it would never end.
You hope.
So that was my most memorable thing. This was this whole act of it to remember what was memorable is that I was fed. I don't remember the food at all. I remember it was
Doesn't matter.
It didn't matter to me. So I made my most memorable moment this morning because I thought this is like a family to me. It really is. I come, you shared your history with me. It becomes part of mine. It'll be given to my children. I like the quiet that I made a simple cha and I enjoyed every sip. And it was the most memorable thing. I included as many people I could. Your hanky is spotlessly still clean, Diane. It's still there. Because I love my grandmother, so I wanted to include a grandmother and there it was. So that was it. I loved it.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Betty?
Plus, most of those of you who know me well know that I love to cook, and I've had a small career in catering at one time, and I love being in the kitchen. For me, that's where I get my flow situation. And I'm not going to tell you about a particular meal, but I'm going to share screen because I want to show you. Some of you have seen these already. The pictures that I took during the pandemic. You might remember that in the beginning, we were all instructed to wash every vegetable.
Yeah.
We were living about a block from the most superb farmers market in Southern California. So every week I was buying the provisions because I was doing all the cooking. We weren't going out at all then. And I would be inspired by what I was buying to make whatever meals. And I'm not showing you pictures of meals. I'm going to show you of the produce and the things that I bought that that inspired me. So I'm going to share my screen and bring up just a second. It'll just take me a minute to find it. Oh, it was right here a minute ago. Hang on, guys.
I'm blown away by how varied our memories are and to talk about. There's been no duplication of any kind. How marvelous.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to share my screen. Oh, you've disabled screen sharing. Barbara, you've got
I didn't do anything.
It's not my fault.
You're not letting me share my screen though. Is there something you can do? Can someone tell Barbara what to do to let me share my screen?
Shoma.
You're a co-host.
Make her co-host, go down to her menu, drop down.
Okay, well, that tends to be, okay. Hold on. I do know what I'm doing, sort of.
You don't.
Okay. But I'm
I
not.
don't have this set up as a screen. I'm just going to pull up these pictures in a minute. As soon as you make
This
me.
isn't working.
Speaking of food, forgive me all. I went to take the call that I took. It's my granddaughter's 10th birthday and she baked her own birthday cake. She
Oh,
was very
sweet.
proud of it.
Aw,
Colette, right?
Colette,
Colette,
It's
yes.
so lovely.
what a fabulous.
Happy birthday.
How are you doing
I
there, Barbara?
can't get this to share screen.
Ah, no, no,
Your
co-host.
co-host. Can you make your
Wait,
co-host, Barbara?
Wait, co-host, I found it
Voila.
and it's,
Okay,
There
Colette.
you go.
There you
okay.
go.
Oh,
Now can I share screen?
Yes, you
There
should
it
be able.
Share screen.
Yep.
And you're sharing I'm sharing my screen. Let me pull this down a little bit. And let's see, will it let me do it as a slideshow? Well, I'll just pull them up one at a time and then just go on to the next. Let's see. So as I was, there we go.
Beautiful.
So as I was washing all my vegetables, I started to make these still lives.
No.
And let me see if I can, I'm trying to figure out a way to just go forward.
If you select them,
Beautiful purple.
I think you
pepper.
select them all and
Oh,
then,
hold
and
on.
then right click, you should be able to do a slideshow.
Okay, let me go back. Select all. Ah, there we go. Thank you. I'm going to do that. I'm not, usually I put everything into a PowerPoint, but I didn't do that. Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Beautiful.
So there we go. So these are some of the things. That's sort of my favorite one with the
Mhm.
lobster. That's usually my final one. Now we're starting at the bottom and going to the top. Okay, well, okay. So you can see the kind of, I was fortunate in getting this amazing produce. The strawberries, we have a separate category for this one vendor. We don't just buy strawberries, we buy Harry's berries.
Mm.
Those are the best. These are the figs, watermelons. You can see everything. I don't have to tell you what everything is because you're all knowledgeable about that. But this was the kind of produce I got all through the pandemic. So I wasn't an unhappy camper while I was here. And made fabulous meals.
I'm only seeing one picture.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, it hasn't changed.
One at a
It's
time.
the
You
one
don't-
with the lobster.
And it's very small. Is there any
Oh,
way of,
oh, that's wrong. Okay, just a minute. Let's see.
Click on it.
I'm clicking. You got the lobster now?
Yes,
No.
yes, just the lobster.
I don't.
no,
see a
all I'm
lobster.
seeing is oranges and cauliflower.
Right.
The
and-
lobster's on
The
top.
lobster's on the top.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Right,
There's-
right, right,
there's
right.
my
Oh,
lobster.
yeah.
Red until it's.
Yeah, but I can't get at them.
Can't get at,
I mean, I can't click on it and make it come up.
On
Yeah,
the
click on it.
very
Click
top,
on the picture.
on the very top where you have the, like the little,
the
Yeah.
menu. Yeah, what can I do there?
can you right click? Can you click that arrow? That's,
There's
Gray.
an up down arrow.
An up down arrow?
No, the gray arrow facing up.
Gray. Is it on my screen? Can you see it on my screen?
yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Over
where-
on the right side of the
this
picture.
one. This one?
There, right there.
It's me.
Wait, tell me. Okay, there's one that says search. Oh, this one? I show markup all? No, this is rotate. There's a highlights and notes. There's this. Share the document plus scale document up. That's all. Why am I not? But you can see that can you see the,
Only one, Betty.
yeah, there should be only one right now. And I
No,
want,
but you can see the stack.
Just a stack of all 15.
right, I can see the stack. So what do I do? So I
I
can,
can
do-
only see
Above the
first one.
stack is, above the stack is something that looks like a triptych. And next to it are little arrows pointing up or down.
Yeah,
enter full
Start
screen.
clicking on those.
Now, did you see are you full screen now?
No.
no,
No,
You're not seeing my full screen of
No.
just the picture?
No,
no.
we're seeing Dropbox,
Oh,
AirDrop.
my
we're
screen
seeing-
sharing is paused. That's not right. Resume share. There we go. Oops. No.
Is that you? Is that
I
her?
can see the triptych thing. Do you see that, Betty? Straight above where all the farmers market things are highlighted.
above the letters.
Yeah,
J,
there,
yeah,
right
right
there.
there.
Right
There you
there.
go.
Okay.
There's your arrows, your up
on
and
the
down
arrow.
arrows.
Show us gallery.
The gallery.
There you go.
Okay.
Now you can do it.
Now, if I click on one of them, it'll come up and then I can just go forward through it.
Yeah.
Think
How
so.
do you
Yeah.
make them bigger? Can you make them bigger?
I'm trying to
Click
do
on
that. So it's the full screen. My screen sharing gets paused when I do it. Resume the share and it goes back to this. I'm sorry, guys. I really wanted you to see this and I'm wasting your time at the end of it.
No, you're not.
So I'm really sorry.
No, I
you know-
mean, we've all been kind to each other as we ran into.
Okay, wait a minute. There's icon, gallery.
What's to the
And
right?
we've got all the little pictures are there.
The pictures are there. We can see
Can you
them.
click on the pictures at the bottom? Can you just click on the next one?
Yes,
There you go.
But is that filling up the screen or are you getting
it's
just?
enough. It
It's
works.
enough.
It's enough so we can
enough.
see it.
Okay.
So just click on all the
there should
little
be something-
pictures.
Oh, wait, view. There should be a full screen view.
Bottom one,
Enter
enter full
full
screen.
screen.
Go to the
Down
down.
full screen.
Screen
All
down
way
at the very
down, enter
bottom.
full screen.
At the very
Yes,
bottom.
Enter
that-
full
it's
That's it.
there.
I got it.
There you go.
Here we
There
go.
it goes.
Yay.
Beautiful.
I just wanted you to see these. So
Yes.
there we go.
Hmm.
Obviously, this
Oh, they're
was
your berries. Gary's
Summer.
berries.
There we go, look.
the shishito peppers, potatoes, asparagus, melons. It was just the peaches. Peach pancakes were one of our favorite things during that time.
What was her name?
Okra, we had a lot of gumbo.
You know,
Fabulous.
these are beautiful.
Pacific salmon. I started thinking, oh, well, maybe I should put some of the red things at this end of the dish drainer. The yellow thing.
Nice.
I was doing my little Dutch still lives.
Hmm.
There we go.
Beautiful.
Very
We
beautiful.
ate memorably. Richard liked to say that this was the best boarding house he could have been stuck in.
So do you know Amelia Saltzman?
Beautiful.
No,
She's written the Santa
Thanks.
Monica Farmers Market Cookbook.
oh, I know the cookbook, but I didn't know the name. I've never bought that cookbook actually, because A, I don't collect cookbooks, and B, I was just sort of doing my own thing, except when I wanted to know how to do something, I would just go check in with Melissa Clark.
Yeah.
And
It looks so nice.
stop sharing now. Thank you for looking at my pictures.
Beautiful.
Okay,
Go.
I'll wind this all up, and I've been lucky enough in my life to eat extraordinary meals. But the one that came to mind when I was in Afghanistan, we marched, we took this goat trail into Nuristan, which is the land of the unenlightened. And it was exhausting. And I have no balance, so it was terrifying. And there was a point at the only way to continue on the trail is that our local guides hugged a big boulder, and their feet were the footholds for the rest of us. And finally, I just totally had it. And 3 of us quit. And we were making rice pudding in empty powdered milk cans. And then the group that had gone back into Nuristan further in crawled back, basically, all of them incredibly ill. They did wind up in hospitals, but we march out and we finally get to the Chicana where we're going to stop. And the food that was given was Spam. I'd never had Spam in my life, and I have never tasted anything more wonderful because we were starved. And I'll never have Spam again because I'll never be on
If you're
route
lucky.
to Nuristan. But you know, it's interesting when you are hungry, really hungry, what you're given. Oh God, that was good.
See, what's great about all of these is
You.
it's just stories. It's everybody's got stories. You know, it's not a plum. It's not a delicious plum. It's the story. It's the story of the plum. I mean,
Shari, did we hear a story from you?
The
Mhm.
cookies.
Yes, about my cookies with my kids.
A finger in
The
them.
cookie.
Okay. That must have been when I went to the bathroom. Sorry.
I have to go. Goodbye,
Penelope,
everyone.
I have ordered a cookbook
Ellen.
for you. I have 2 things to say quickly. I've ordered a cookbook for you, that is about Jewish cooking from Rome. And it's not out yet, but it will be in April, and you're getting a copy from me. And Shoma, would you please share with everybody what your daughter said about gossip?
Oh God.
Please share it. It's
But it's
wonderful.
true. She's accurate.
What Sherry is, oh God, Sherry, what Sherry is talking about. So some of you know, I have 15 minutes by myself with each of my children by themselves. And my daughter's quite witty, and my son's turning out the same way. Like the other day, she now borrowed some of my clothes, and she was wearing a jacket the other day. And I said, I have it before you were born, so please take care of it. And she just didn't even bat an eye and told me, I respect my elders, don't worry. And I first didn't know what she was talking about. It was just because the jacket is older than her. So what Sherry is saying is, she comes and spends 15 minutes telling me whatever they want, individually, my son and my daughter. So we're lying in bed, she's telling me stuff, and she's telling me stuff about local celebrity gossip. After 10 minutes of it, I'm like, oh God, Kaya, please something else. I'm sick of hearing gossip. And in the dark, I can see her look at me with almost angry. She tells me, you like gossip. You just like dead people gossip. And I'm like, what?
I love it.
Talking about. She's like, yeah, you like to learn about who the Queen Elizabeth dated. I'm like, what? And I realized what she was saying is, what I consider history to her is gossip. Which of the 7 suitors
About
of
dead
Elizabeth?
people.
It's just gossip to her about dead people. So when Zendaya dates 5 people, to her it's equivalent of, the 7 technically historical suitors of Queen Elizabeth. And I first stared at her for 5 seconds, and I was like, oh my God, she's right. I happen to like dead people gossip. Everybody else calls it history. To her, it's like, no, you like gossip too. You just need them to be dead for you to be interested. I was like, okay, yeah, I agree.
Well, when I went anywhere and was engaging guides, my requirement, which was not always met, but sometimes it was spectacularly. And I said, I want a guide who is a great historical gossip. I don't want
There you go.
I want who was so-and-so sleeping with, or what were the rumors of that's what I love in history.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sharon.
And that's one of the reasons I love the book, the 2-volume book, The President's House, which is a history of the White House, because the person who wrote it is a born gossip, and he is telling, gossip throughout the history of the White House. 2 things. One is, my father's story of one of his professors in college was that he told all history as gossip. And the students listening.
It is.
And then what do you think Marie Antoinette did next? And they were absolutely spellbound. But the other thing is, it was Kuchen, not cake, Kuchen. And those were actually cheaper than bread. Not to excuse her, the other thing is that diamond necklace. It took her, she had a diamond necklace that it took her poitrine to support it. Anybody else, it would be down to your pubic bone. But I just Googled, where is the Russian mafia in the US now? And I did some other things. It would have, and the first thing that came up, it's worth pursuing, is Ukrainian mafia. So this happened here. It's going to be an interesting story. This happened here when the Soviet Union broke up, and people from Ukraine, because there were all kinds of arms floating around there, people from Ukraine came, mostly in, Brighton Beach, near New York.
Yeah.
But you will find, so this is going to be very complex in terms of, is this Russian mafia or is it Ukrainian? And if it's, who do we support? Or do we just say, you're mafia, you're out of here?
I will look it up. I hate doing this. I hate talking about my work, but I think you might like this. On the 23rd of this month, I've been asked by the IWA to present on India. I normally don't do this at all.
On what?
So I'll be presenting on India. I'm going to do a short presentation. It's called India, an Idea Across Centuries. It's not going to be about anything, the triangles or anything, it'll be the India that I like.
Yeah.
All the tiny villages.
When is this?
On 23rd, it'll be recorded. So I'm sure IWA will record it.
But what date is it?
23rd of March,
23rd.
10:30 in the morning. So I will probably show stuff that most people wouldn't bother to go, but it's the India that I grew up with. So if
Oh,
that
I
interests
want to
you,
see
do
that.
come.
So are you
Yeah.
saying, are you
23rd
saying you're
at 10
going, are
a.m.?
you saying you're going to invite us, or that we will wait for the recording?
Whichever one, if you're interested, do come. Because I
But
don't
you'll
like
invite-
promoting
Please
work
send
at
the link.
all.
Yeah,
You
please send
If
I
you
will
it.
send
send
you
the
a-
link, that'd be wonderful.
When they give
Yes.
it to me, I will send it to you, but it'll be all little bits
Good.
of India that
Oh,
heard
wonderful.
about Kathakali
Perfect.
and stuff. The Kathakali stuff the Indians don't see. That's more touristy.
Mm.
You'll see all the other stuff that local Indians go see and make fun of, but are colorful and kooky. And the small
Oh,
places in the villages that I used to visit. So it'll be the India that I liked. So if you're interested, I will definitely send the link. But
Yes,
please don't be
definitely.
obligated to come. Just get your Indian lovers.
I want
Love
to
it.
tell you another story about food.
Please do.
In India, it's kind of like you're talking about. We were driving to Mount Abu,
Oh yes, by Rajasthan.
oh, I love Mount Abu.
and we got hungry, and so the driver said, "Let's stop here," and we stopped at it looked like a nice place, like next to the
Agapa.
and Agapa,
Dhaba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dhaba.
yeah,
There were tables outside next.
Yeah, that's a dhaba.
right, yes. And so we went in and we were going to, we didn't know what to eat. We were expecting, we have this exotic picture in our mind. And we said to the driver, we don't know what to eat. What are you going to eat? And he said, I'm going to eat over here. I don't eat with you. I have to eat with the drivers. And I said, no, we want to eat with you. We want to have what you're going to eat. So he insisted that he stayed with us. And he said, well, so what are you going to have? And he said, huh?
Vegetable cutlet.
And then he said, I was going to have a vegetable cutlet. And I said, well, that's fine. I love vegetables. So let's have, and we were expecting again, something curry, we got the best latke.
That's what it is.
It was unbelievable.
It
We ordered them twice.
They were the best latkes that I had ever had.
Oh, it's
Stop
wonderful.
making them.
We talk about the lost tribes. You found one.
No question, the best
But it was-
latkes since her
Oh,
latkes, and I
Yeah.
never had another one as good since.
No, it was just fabulous.
That's great.
This little country road,
David and I had another experience. This was in Turkey and in Istanbul. The fish market by day turns into an eating street. So if you ever go, I'll find it for you. And we sit down at a little table because all of these places turn into restaurants. And when we're trying to figure out what to eat, the people next to us are saying, we'll send, and they would send over plates of food. And there was a dancing bear. I mean, it was a different world. And there was some chopped liver pieces. And I found an American or an English Turkish dictionary and looked up liver. And then I had the word because we went back there the next night. It was so good.
Shari, thank you for thinking of me for this cookbook. I have, you say it's a new one. I have an old one that's Italian Jewish cooking. I think that's the title of it. I'm not sure. It's quite rare. I, of course, found it at the Newberry Library Book Fair.
Well, this is called Cooking Alla Judea, and it won't be out until mid-April. And I have ordered 2 of them, one for you and one for me.
Oh,
Marvelous. Yeah.
And Shoma, I have told everybody
you.
about what your daughter said. I've
Oh.
told everybody.
it's
I
fabulous.
love that
I'm
line.
glad it resonated with you. Mwah.
Bye,
Great
all.
afternoon. Wonderful
Enjoy. It was so
afternoon.
much fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
Love you.
This was
Bye.
great. Bye, everybody.
Ciao.
Love you.
So long.